Think about the last time something broke at your job. A computer glitches, a piece of equipment fails. It's annoying, right? It might cause a small argument or a bit of frustration, but at the end of the day, it's just a broken machine. But what if that small, everyday problem, a broken washing machine, was enough to ignite a rage so extreme, so violent, that it ended with one man dead in the most horrific way imaginable, right in front of his own family? Today, we're going to Dallas, Texas, to the scene of a crime that is almost unbelievable in its brutality. It's a story about a gentle, hardworking immigrant manager and a troubled employee with a dark past. A story that starts with a simple instruction about a laundry machine and ends in a way that would shock the entire nation. Chandra Nagamallaiah, who everyone knew as Bob, was a 50-year-old man who embodied the immigrant dream. He came from the Davanagere district of Karnataka, India, where he was a successful entrepreneur, running a general store and 2 restaurants. But he saw a better, more stable future in America, especially for his wife, Nisha, and their young son, Gaurav. In 2020, he made the sacrifice, moving to the US to build that new foundation. By 2021, he had become the manager of the Downtown Suites Motel on Samuel Boulevard in Dallas. Friends and family remember a man of remarkable dedication, often working 16-hour days. Yet what defined him most was his gentleness. One friend described him as a perfect gentleman, admired for his patience and his gift for peacemaking among the motel's diverse residents. His life revolved around a simple but powerful goal: to save enough money to buy a house and give his son the future he had crossed the world to find. Working and living at that same motel was a 37-year-old Cuban national named Yordanos Cobos-Martinez. And if Bob was the peacemaker, Cobos-Martinez was the opposite. Other tenants described him as a human powder keg, restless, unpredictable, and dangerously short-tempered. They said he was always angry, and known to erupt over the smallest things. In 2017, he was arrested in South Lake Tahoe, California, for attempting to carjack a vehicle while completely naked. In 2018, in Houston, he was charged with aggravated assault for choking a woman and threatening her with a piece of glass. That same year, he faced charges of indecency with a child, though those were later dismissed. He had a warrant out for fleeing probation in California, but somehow he was never off the streets for long. Through a series of complex legal maneuvers, guilty pleas to lesser charges, and credit for time served, he was repeatedly released back into the community. And then there was his immigration status. Cobos-Martinez was an undocumented immigrant under a final order of deportation from ICE. But there was a huge problem. The Cuban government flat out refused to accept his deportation, citing his extensive criminal record. With no diplomatic path to send him back, US authorities released him on January 13th, 2025, under an order of supervision. He was in a bureaucratic no man's land, a man deemed too dangerous for his home country to take back, but one our system couldn't keep detained. And so, he was living and working freely at the Downtown Suites Motel. That's where all of these systemic failures would tragically converge on the morning of September 10th, 2025. The tension between Bob and Cobos-Martinez had been building. Bob, the manager, spoke English. Cobos-Martinez spoke Spanish. To make sure his instructions were clear, Bob would often ask a female co-worker, a woman named Araceli, to translate for him. But Cobos-Martinez didn't see this as an attempt at clarity. He saw it as a personal insult, a form of mockery. In his mind, this perceived disrespect was fuel for a deep-seated rage. At approximately 8:26 that morning, the final trigger was pulled. Cobos-Martinez's girlfriend was using a washing machine that Bob knew was broken. He went to the laundry room and gave a simple, direct order. Don't use that machine. And, as he often did, he asked Araceli to translate the message. For Cobos-Martinez, this was the ultimate humiliation. His temper snapped. Witnesses describe a terrifyingly fast escalation. He stormed out of the laundry room. Just moments later, he returned, but now he was armed with a long-bladed machete. Bob immediately understood the mortal danger he was in. He turned and ran, screaming for his life, towards the one place he thought was safe, the motel office, where his wife Nisha and his son Gaurav were inside. But Cobos-Martinez was right behind him, relentless. He chased Bob down and forced his way into that office. What happened next is almost unimaginable. Bob's wife Nisha and their young son Gaurav tried to intervene. They tried to physically shield him, to stand between their husband and father and the man with the machete. But Cobos-Martinez was consumed by a brutal rage. He physically pushed the terrified woman and child out of his way and continued his horrific attack. He assaulted Bob with the machete until his head was completely severed from his body. But the horror didn't stop there. According to the police affidavit, after the beheading, Cobos-Martinez took Bob's cell phone and keycard. He then walked out of the office and kicked the severed head twice, sending it out into the parking lot. He then picked it up, carried it over to a nearby dumpster, and threw it inside. He then simply began walking away from the motel, still carrying the bloodied machete. Dallas fire rescue crews were the first to arrive at the scene. They saw him walking down the street, weapon still in hand. They followed him, relaying his exact location to police, who were able to take him into custody just a block away without incident. During his interrogation, Cobos-Martinez admitted to the entire crime. Sources say he showed a chilling, absolute lack of remorse. He has since been charged with capital murder and is being held in the Dallas County Jail on an immigration hold with no possibility of bond. In Texas, a capital murder charge can lead to life in prison without parole, or the death penalty. The aftermath was immediate and intense. The case became a flashpoint for a national debate about immigration and border security. But the story was even more complex than that. It was later revealed that Cobos-Martinez's own family in Cuba had repeatedly begged their government to allow him to return home for psychiatric care, but Havana refused, stating that he had lost his mind. He was a man caught in a void between nations, a man with a clear history of violence and untreated mental health issues, stuck in a system that had no way to manage him. As the political arguments raged, the Indian American community in Dallas focused on the real victims. A GoFundMe was started by Bob's friend, Krishna Puttaparthi, and it raised over $350,000 to support his devastated wife and son. The community came together to ensure that Bob would be remembered, not for the unbelievable brutality of his death, but for the kind, gentle, and hard-working man he was. In the end, a man who had travelled halfway across the world to build a safe life for his family was killed over a broken washing machine, and a system full of diplomatic failures and bureaucratic cracks had allowed the man who killed him to be standing right there, holding a machete. Thank you for joining me for this incredibly tragic story. Before we go, if you found this video informative, please consider subscribing to my channel, Truly Chilling. A like on this video also really helps us reach more people. Thank you so much for your time and for your support. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.